In this step, we're going to plug in the power and the servo data wires, as well as attach the servos to these aluminium brackets on the base. So a few things to note. If you look at this circuit closely, you'll see some markings. You'll see it says servo 3 over here, servo 2 over here. So essentially, these servos are numbered in the clockwise direction. This, on this flat side of the circuit, the servo over here is servo 1, this is servo 2, and this is servo 3. Now this is important because you'll also see that these header pins which are here have markings next to them. One says servo 1, one says servo 2, and one says servo 3. So you need to make sure that servo 1 gets plugged into the header pins for servo 1, servo 2 gets plugged into the header pins for servo 2, and servo 3 gets plugged into the header pins for servo 3. The other thing that you'll notice when you look at the circuit is that the header pins have markings on them which says black, red, orange, or minus, plus, and D, which essentially corresponds to the coloring of the wires on this servo. So you have to make sure that when you plug in the servo, the black wire is first, followed by the red wire, followed by the orange wire. It should correspond to the labeling on the circuit. The other thing that you'll see is this connector down here, this two cable connector. It takes power from the first level up to the head. So as a first step, take the long red and black wire and plug it in. This is a polarized connector, so it can only plug in one direction. Next, take the 3 color wire, the yellow, green, and blue, and plug it in to the 3 connector over here. These wires, they take the data for the servo from the Raspberry Pi down to the servos. So now you have this yellow, green, and blue wire connected in, and this power wire which is red and black. The next step, take each servo and we're going to screw it in to these aluminium brackets. What you're going to make sure is that the wire of the servo is pointing in towards the inside, and you must make sure that you plug it in the correct direction. So remember, the coloring on the wires must match up with the labeling on the circuit. So it's black, red, orange, as well as servo 1 goes into the servo 1 connector, servo 2 goes into the servo 2 connector, and servo 3 into the servo 3 connector. So I'm first plugging in servo 1. I'm making sure the wire coloring matches up, and it goes into the servo 1 header pin. Once that is plugged in, I'm going to use these small screws. I'm going to make sure the holes on the servo line up with the holes on the aluminum bracket. I'm going to screw in 2 screws on either side. Sometimes helps to do 1 screw on this side, flip it over, do another screw on the other side just to hold it in place, and then do the remaining screws. So I've now connected servo 1 to the bracket as well as plugged it into the correct header. Now I'll go on to servo 2. And finally servo 3.